and sexually harassed wrestlers repeatedly. That's right. The charge sheet states that based on the investigation so far of the complaints by 6 top wrestlers, Singh was liable to be prosecuted and punished for offences of sexual harassment, molestation and stalking. The section under which he's been charged are Section 506, criminal intimidation, 354, outraging modesty of a woman, 354A, sexual harassment, and 354D, stalking. The charge sheet, which is dated on June 13th, that is also flagged that in one case, Singh's harassment was repeated and continuing. The charge sheet also adds that the investigators spoke to 108 witnesses, of whom 15, including wrestlers, coaches, and referees, corroborated the allegations made by the wrestlers. The wrestlers, in their complaints, alleged 15 incidents of sexual harassment that include 10 episodes of inappropriate touching, several instances of intimidation, including stalking. In the charge sheet, the Delhi police have included corroborative statements of witnesses related to these specific allegations of 6 wrestlers. First of all, this is a story in the Indian Express, and kudos to the reporters Nihal Koshi and Mahinder Singh Manral who've done this story. But the charge sheet itself and the kind of stuff that is written there, that is shocking, and it just takes me back to the protest itself and all that those wrestlers, India's top wrestlers, have had to face. The protest is not continuing anymore, but this charge sheet itself shows what all Brij Bhushan Singh did with those wrestlers and the plight of those women wrestlers. Joining me here on this discussion, on this show, are my News 9 colleagues. And I'm going to put this question to them as women. What do they think when they read a report like this in the front page? I have Nivedita Khandekar here who joins me. I have Nivriti Mohan. I also have Geeta Datta on the Zoom link. There is Shweta Kothari who joins me here. Just as women, I've got to ask you this question. How disturbed are you, or how triggered are you by what you've read in that report, especially, detailed statements of those wrestlers? Let me begin with Nivedita and then I'll go to Nivriti. Nivedita.
The very first thought was this should have been done much earlier. Why did the Delhi police take so long? The wrestlers have been demanding it for so long. They have been putting out allegations earlier also. So how is this system moving so slowly? That is a cause of worry for me. And we have seen it happening in other cases also. I mean, that's my first thought when I see a news like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been seeing how this whole episode is unfolded really, Nivriti, where we've seen it's taken that long for Delhi police to first file the charge sheet. The protest went on for more than 2 months. These wrestlers were roughed up. They were beaten up by the Delhi police. They've braved rain and storm and heat, but they were sitting there. And these are not ordinary people. These are women and men who've brought laurels to this country, and yet they've had to go through this. What I find completely obnoxious is the fact that not only are you doing this, but you have to bear all of this other protest and everything else just to get your voice heard. And even now, you're not sure if any action is going to be taken against Brij Bhushan Singh. That is just, I don't know how else to put it. It's the helplessness. It's disappointing. I don't know.
Yes, absolutely, Neha. Like it is like every relationship of a boss and an employee. It's kind of their thing. And in this case also, Brij Bhushan Singh is a boss to all of them, because at some point of time or at a particular level, their career is related to this entire thing, entire case. And they have staked their entire career and they have come up and protested against all these allegations that have been placed against Brij Bhushan Singh. and they've not worried about what will happen to their career, how will they go ahead with their careers. They have not at all worried about it, because it was an issue which is related to women. And you know, sexual harassment is not a small thing to happen to any women. Each one of us must have faced at some point of time these kind of things in our lives. Not only in a professional thing, but when you start, जब आप अपनी ज़िंदगी में आगे बढ़ते हो, आप छोटे होते हो, छोटे बच्चे होते हो, छोटे बच्चे से लेकर जब आप बड़े होते हो, कॉलेज में जाते हो, यूनिवर्सिटी तक पहुँचते हो, उस entire phase के अंदर भी you come through several such incidents where you feel exploited, you feel cheated, and you feel that when a man is living in a free country, and you don't feel a free citizen of the country, because when you walk on road, you are molested at some point of time. Somebody throws a stone at you, or maybe taps at your back, or at some part of your body, and moves ahead. These all these things happen to a woman since the very childhood. And when you surpass all these difficulties and reach to a place where you can make a mark, like these women wrestlers, they come from a background, very humble backgrounds, where various societal restrictions imposed upon them, and still they struggle and reach a place where they can make a mark, they can make their country proud of. And this is the extreme case of achievement, where you are making your country proud of. And you are bringing in medals, Olympic medals you are bringing in, and still you are struggling to get justice. This is something very, I must say, it is ridiculous as a woman, I think.
It is unfortunate, it's ridiculous. Shweta, I was reading the statements of these wrestlers, and I mean, one of the reasons why we're doing this show for everybody who's watching us is that we're using this as a platform to just let the women here in our organization, their voices be heard on the issue, because this is what we've read today is disturbing. It's like Nivedita and Nivriti has been saying, that it's in a way triggering, because we've at certain moments in our lives we've faced something like this, and that's why I think we need to just look at the issue and also figure out what can be done, because from the Vishaka guidelines onwards to POSH to Me Too movement, where we always say that women are getting empowered, and then we have stories like this where there is very clear evidence of what happened. You go back and you look at yourselves and you say, are we really empowered? I mean, are our voices being heard? If normal people, their voices, are not heard, then what about some of the other people? Like, I'm talking about the wrestlers who are, who've done so much for this country. And if their voices are not being heard, then what about ordinary people who are just working every day, going to work, coming back, maybe a little girl going to school, coming back? I don't know. I think that's the reason why we just got all of us together, right? And just to have a conversation around this. So yes, just coming back to this Indian Express report, there are statements, Shweta. Wrestler 1, if I could just go to that. Wrestler 1, the allegations. I was out for dinner in a hotel restaurant. The accused, which is Brij Bhushan Singh, called me to his dinner table, placed his hand on my breast, groped me, and then slid his hand down to my stomach repeatedly for 3 to 4 times. In the WFI office, he started touching me inappropriately on my palm, knee, thighs, shoulders without my consent. He put his hand on my breast and slid it down my stomach on the pretext of checking my breathing. Does that, is that,
let me begin by
absolutely
saying,
disgusting or not? Yes.
Absolutely. Let me begin by saying my problem with this is two-pronged. Number one, when the wrestlers' protest was happening, it was at its full force. There wasn't enough attention given to it. As media people, we are culpable of not giving it the due attention it needed. We talked about the new parliament inauguration. We talked about Karnataka election in full force. But unfortunately, Olympic winning wrestlers, and we're not talking about common women, Meha, you brought an important point. You said, what about common women? And these are no common women. These are women who've broken the shackles around them. They've really come up from small towns and villages in this country. They have worked their way up. They have struggled. They have proved their merit. They have the support, the eyes and the ears of people. If these women could not get justice, they had to call off their protest. I wonder what happens to common women, people who do not have access to power, people who do not have the eyes and ears of the common masses. So that is problem number one. The absence of a recourse for these women who already hold a lot of merit by the way of the body of work and by the laurels that they've brought to the country. Number one. Number two, you have a person who is bagged in this case, the accused is bagged by the ruling dispensation, Brij Bhushan Singh, who has 2 FIRs on him, on his name. Number one is by all these women wrestlers who are saying that they were touched, and you read out an excerpt from one of the wrestlers, and the others are equally damning, and I'm hoping we'll read these allegations out because they tell you the extent to which the accused went to molest these women. So you have a man who has obvious political clout, who has 2 FIRs. One is a general FIR, which is leveled by all these female wrestlers. Other is a POSCO FIR. Under POSCO FIRs, which is Prevention of Sexual Offences Against Children, the accused was bound to be arrested. He should have later gotten bail, but he was never arrested, which goes on to suggest that there was enough pressure either built on the police, or there was enough political patronage that he has enjoyed till date, by the way of which he has averted our legal justice system. What I'm finally a little relieved about is the FIR, which is being rightly reported now by one single newspaper. I'm hoping that the details will come out very quickly, and we'll be able to get a hold of that FIR, which details what witnesses are saying, what wrestlers are saying, the more than 100 people who have been interviewed. There are corroborative evidences. Up till now, Delhi police has repeatedly maintained we don't have enough evidence, so we cannot prosecute this man. But there is evidence now, and he's liable to be prosecuted. So I'm hoping, as we set the ball rolling for this discussion, that there is going to be some action, and this man who's been at the center of a big, huge controversy has not taken any moral, reasonable standing and resigned from the Wrestling Federation of India, still continues to be at the helm of power. He will be taken off immediately by the ruling government. That is number one. And number two, he should be prosecuted. And we understand under the legal recourse system that unless someone is found guilty, they are innocent. But these are serious charges, and he should at least be prosecuted for these charges. So I'm hoping that will happen very soon.
The thing that that also stands out for me is the fight by these wrestlers, Geeta. Not many women can do this. And I feel like we've got to really touch upon that as well. That, these wrestlers did it, and against somebody who had the political clout, he has the power, he's been 6-time member of parliament. But women a lot of times do not want to come out and talk about sexual harassment because of similar reasons where, either they're not believed or they're given excuses. Even in this case, one of the wrestlers was told, but you know what, he's like a father figure, so what if he's just put his arm around you? Can he not do that? Does your father not do that with you? And then for you to be able to make sense of all of that and say, okay, am I just creating something out of nothing? So this is extremely complicated. And I hope there is justice here, because this will have a larger impact on some of the other sportswomen in this country. Whether they'd want to come out and talk about sexual harassment that they've faced, just women in general, would they want to come out and talk about it?
So whenever we in our work areas, whenever we faced any, as a senior person, if I've ever faced any complaint or anybody's walked up, I think the first thing you've done is taken what they've said, against a person as that person is guilty. Then you start your investigation, and then you figure out if that person is guilty or not because you have a committee. That wasn't done here. I mean, when you read out what one girl has written, what he has done to her, I mean, I am just so wild right now because the fact that it takes so much for any girl, any age to come out and say, this is what she has gone through. Because all of us are women. I don't know about most here, but I can speak for myself. Even I, who have worked and have not come from that background where, different the same. The first thing you think is, did I encourage that person? Did I say something? Did I do something? That's the first thing you tend to sort of self-rate yourself. And then you start looking and saying no. So it takes a lot for every woman at every class or social whatever to come out and say, this has happened to her. And then you find that even when you come out and say that, you have guys who are sort of ganging up and saying, oh, she should have expected it, or she dresses up like this, or she was this frank, or she's this kind of a person. And it just boggles your mind that here is this guy who these women came out and said, this is what he has done to them. He should have been considered guilty. They should have started an investigation right away. For the police to say we don't have evidence, well, that is how you collect evidence. If the guy is in a position where he can influence, then you take him off that position so that they can conduct the investigation fairly, and then he is in no position to mess with the investigation or put it in get himself free from that. He should have been considered guilty, which is what this is. Vishaka and Posh, you're guilty till you are proven innocent. Prove yourself innocent and come back. I mean, that is what it is. But a woman, any woman coming out and saying this, and also remember, I mean, most of the times, all of us keep saying that a woman has to come out and say if she's going through something, because that's the only way these guys are going to. If the woman comes out and she says something and it's not acted upon, then the whole thing is, why should we come out? I mean, after all, it's the woman who's going to get bashed up. It is a woman whose character will be this thing. It's the woman whose family will get to hear all kinds of things saying, oh, dekha ladki ko ghar bithana tha, why did you send her out? So my thing is that's the reason why they said what they said, that anybody coming out on sexual harassment case is guilty till he's proven innocent. And if he's innocent, he shouldn't have, nobody should have worried about anything. So I really don't understand this whole thing. And it's just, like I said, it's just aggravating and angering me so much that they've gone through all this and everybody was like, oh, hey, what?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, no, you're right, Geeta. In fact, when I was reading the first statement, I had goosebumps because you either have at some point faced it in your lives, or you've heard that somebody has gone through it, one of your friends, one of your relatives, and that's why this all seems so real. So, having said that, I'm going to read some of the other allegations by the other wrestlers. Now, it may be triggering for some victims, survivors of sexual harassment, sexual abuse. So I'm going to put that disclaimer out there. Be mindful of that. I've already read one wrestler. This is wrestler number 2. And remember that all of these have been corroborated as well. So it's not just the wrestler making the allegation. There are others who've said that, yes, this did happen, right? The other thing being, I'm again going to say, this is a report by the Indian Express, by Nihal Koshi and Mahinder Singh Manral. And they have accessed this chart sheet, Delhi Police's chart sheet, and we are taking out excerpts of that report and putting it out there and just having a conversation around sexual harassment and whether we've really moved forward as a country when it comes to these issues. Right, so I've already read wrestler 1 and I want to put it out there. I'm also going to say this again. I want to put this out there so that you know the extent of what happened and all that these women, these girls had to go through. This is wrestler number 2. These are top wrestlers of this country. She says, I was lying down on the mat and the accused, to my shock and surprise, without seeking my permission, pulled up my t-shirt, placed his hands on my breast and slid it down my stomach on the pretext of checking my breathing. At Federation office, I was called into the room of the accused. My brother was asked to stay back. The accused closed the door, pulled me towards himself and tried making forceful physical contact. witness's account, which is the brother/husband, who's gone on to say she appeared to be visibly upset when she came out of the office on that day. She did not tell him anything, that's the brother, anything about the incident, but later on came to know of the incident with the complainant after the FIR was registered. Now, I think the other thing, Nivedita, is to be able to speak about it.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's the most difficult thing to do. I think anybody who's gone through sexual abuse or harassment, that's the first thing. Who do you tell? Will I be believed? Did I do something to instigate it? Should I not have gone late at night? Should I not have gone with this male friend of mine? Whatever might be the reasons, that's the one big thing.
Yes, there are two aspects to this. One of the sections that have been leveled against him is 506, criminal intimidation. That is very much prevalent in many of the cases, because the person in position of authority is threatening. In case here also, he is saying, "Jada smart ban rahi hai kya tu? Khelna nahi hai kya aage?" So one of the wrestlers has alleged that, and this is what happens in many of the cases where the boss, so to say, threatens the junior person, the female in this case, that she will be deprived of the opportunities. It can be any field.
Relent, yeah.
Unfortunately, here the Olympians are facing it. I'm sure you have covered other sports sections are also facing this, and it's applicable to all other fields also, where a woman at a junior level is facing some kind of intimidation from the higher authority, and then she thinks, oh, what is at stake? And then that makes the choice difficult for many women for whom that particular job may be of very much of need for financial reasons. That particular position may be of need. That is where the women need to cross.
Can I just interrupt, because and you can continue with this conversation. I remember there was a photograph of Sakshi Malik's marriage, right? It was her wedding, and there was a photograph where she was smiling when Brijbhushansharansingh went and congratulated the couple. And people who were against this wrestler's protest said that, "Arey dekho, ye to has rahi hai. Agar iske saath koi bhi kisi bhi tarah ka if the accused has done anything to her, तो फिर ये smile क्यों कर रही है?"
Yes, that was an unfortunate conversation on the social media.
Exactly.
Making it a joke out of a photo, which is another special occasion for that
but
girl.
They also have to realize that I don't think that girl is in a position where she can make a scene.
Yes.
You know, a lot of times that's another issue.
That's the pressure that the girl has.
Exactly.
So not just here, it happens across.
Yeah.
So that it's again left to the girl, to the female facing that issue, to really take a call, what is at stake and where should she take that stand. So it can happen at the first instance, but in this case where they suffered a lot and then they said, "Boss, enough, now we need to raise that voice." So the more we reduce that time and stop it at the first instance itself, things would be better. So I would always pray for a position where all the girls, all the females, not just in sports, anywhere, would be in a position to say nothing doing at the first instance.
Yeah. But see, this is what happened in the first instance. Now, this is exactly what happened when the first time they reported this. In January, Vinesh Phogat and other wrestlers, they mounted a small protest in Delhi demanding Brij Bhushan Singh's removal. It seemed to have had the desired effect when India's Sports Ministry announced an oversight committee that would probe the allegations, and Singh stepped aside to let the investigation go ahead. The wrestlers returned to Haryana. But by April, the wrestlers realized there'd be no action that would be taken against Brij Bhushan. Now think of this. The Oversight Committee, led by former world boxing champion Mary Kom, heard the wrestlers, and they had given the same incidents of sexual harassment while deposing before the committee, yet remained silent on the allegations against Singh. This despite a dozen players, coaches, support staff either accusing Singh of sexual harassment or corroborating the allegations. Of course, the wrestlers, including Sakshi, Vinesh Phogat and Bajrang Punia, they then returned to Jantar Mantar, where they continued to protest for 2 months. Now, apart from Mary Kom, who were the other members of this committee? And why I'm saying this is that there were women in that committee. There were, sports persons in that committee. And yet they didn't find anything wrong. There was London Olympics bronze medal winning wrestler Yogeshwar Dutt, former badminton player Trupti Murugande. You would see her on various sports channels as an analyst. Former SAI executive director Radhika Sriman, another woman on the panel. Former chief executive of TOPS Target Olympic Podium Scheme Rajesh Rajgopalan, and former wrestler Babita Phogat. She was there too. So while the Delhi police found Brij Bhushan liable to be prosecuted and punished for the offences on the basis of the same allegations, the Oversight Committee did not raise a single red flag or recommend police action in this report submitted to the Sports Ministry in April. I mean, there's a reason why Nivriti, they returned to the protest because they realized कि भाई कुछ होना जाना है नहीं, हमने डिपोज कर दिया. अच्छा, डिपोज करते वक्त भी, do you know what they were asked for? They were asked for video and audio proofs. Where are you going to get video and audio proofs for sexual harassment? Are you going to, sneakily put a camera next time you go in? So, the one thing that everybody talks about is कि जब आप ऐसा कोई कमिटी फॉर्म करते हो, ICC, you have to make sure that the victim feels comfortable enough to approach you. यहाँ पे तो कमिटी ऐसी है which is telling you कि भाई get some proof, और ऊपर से they didn't find anything wrong. All of these things which are disturbing us, they didn't think, they thought it was normal. Father figure, he can do anything.
या यही बात है कि जिस तरीके से कमिटी ने कहा कि उनको पहले तो कुछ दिखा नहीं, क्योंकि कुछ उसमें इस तरीके की जो एलिगेशंस जो लगे हैं उस तरीके का उनको कुछ नज़र नहीं आया. और उसके बाद उन्होंने कि इसमें पुलिस FIR भी होनी चाहिए, ऐसा भी उनको नहीं लगा, ये भी उन्होंने रेकमेंड नहीं किया, जैसे कि आपने भी बताया. और साथ में उन्होंने एक चीज़ ज़रूर उसमें कह दी कि हमारे पास कोई कंप्लेंट्स कमिटी नहीं है. वहाँ पे तो सिर्फ कंप्लेंट्स कमिटी होने से क्या चीज़ें सुधर जाती? कि मान लीजिए वहाँ पे कंप्लेंट्स कमिटी होती भी तो आपको लगता है कि ऐसा होता कि मैंने आज कंप्लेन की है तो बट WFI के जो चीफ हैं वो बृजभूषण सिंह हैं और वो कंप्लेन कमिटी आपके लिए कुछ कर पाती? मुझे तो नहीं लगता. अभी अगर आप देखेंगे कि हम वर्क प्लेसेस में भी जो हमारी कमिटीज़ बनी होती हैं सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट को एड्रेस करने के लिए, तो वर्क प्लेस में कमिटी बनी होती है, उसमें सब जगह विमेन प्लेस्ड होती हैं, तो आप ताकि आप कंफर्टेबल फील कर सको और जाके अगर आपके साथ कोई भी गलत चीज़ हुई है तो आप जाकर उनको बता सको कि वी हैव बीन फेसिंग दिस एंड प्लीज़ लिसन टू अस, रजिस्टर आवर कंप्लेंट. बट वहाँ पर जाने में भी अगर आपका बॉस मेल है and you are going and complaining against your boss to the committee which is led by some women, you cannot go to that committee. मतलब आपके मन में कुछ ऐसा आएगा कि क्या मेरी बात सुनी जाएगी? महिलाएं हैं लेकिन फिर भी आप सोचोगे कि क्या मेरी बात सुनी जाएगी? और उसके बाद आपके पास सबसे बड़ा सवाल आएगा कि अगर मैंने कंप्लेंट कर दी तो what will happen to my career? मेरे करियर का क्या होगा? क्या मैं आगे यहाँ पे नौकरी कर पाऊँगी? जैसा कि निवेदिता ने भी कहा कि कई बार ऐसा होता है कि आपको नौकरी की ज़रूरत है, आपके घर पे यू आर द ओनली ब्रेड विनर, दैट माइट बी वन ऑफ द सिचुएशंस. तो उसमें आपके पास बहुत सारे रीजंस होंगे कि आप नहीं जा सकते हो, कंप्लेन नहीं कर सकते हो. लेकिन जब आपकी सिचुएशंस ऐसी हो जाती हैं कि यू कैन गो एंड पुट योर कंप्लेन इन फ्रंट ऑफ सम कमिटी या अथॉरिटीज़ के सामने कंप्लेन करते हो, तो आपके पास सवाल आता है कि भाई आपने इतना लेट क्यों कंप्लेन फाइल किया. तो वो सारी सिचुएशंस भी अंडरस्टैंड करना ज़रूरी है कि विमेन क्या फेस करती है. तो इसी तरह की सिचुएशंस इन रेसलर्स ने भी ज़रूर फेस की होगी, सोचा होगा. ओलंपिक मेडलिस्ट हैं, ये ज़रूर सोचा होगा कि अगर हम अभी ये करते हैं तो हमारा करियर जो कि इतना ब्राइट है उसका आगे चल कर क्या हो जाएगा. और
अभी भी कोई क्लैरिटी नहीं है इनके करियर पे भी, आगे अभी क्या होगा
अभी भी नहीं है. अच्छा, एक चीज़ आप सोचिए कि क्या अगर हम एक्शन नहीं ले रहे हैं या टाइमली एक्शन नहीं ले रहे हैं इतने बड़े सीरियस एलिगेशन के खिलाफ, अगर टाइमली एक्शन नहीं ले रहे हैं तो ना सिर्फ हम विमेन रेसलर्स को डिप्राइव कर रहे हैं जस्टिस से, लेकिन हम एक दूसरी तरफ एनकरेज भी कर रहे हैं इस तरीके के क्रिमिनल एक्ट को.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
ये क्या एक तरफा नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ आपने यू आर जस्ट डिप्राइविंग वुमेन ऑफ जस्टिस या फिर उनको आप उनकी बात नहीं सुन रहे हो, ये सिर्फ यहाँ पे तो ख़त्म नहीं हो रहा ना, जो दूसरी तरफ व्यक्ति है उसको भी तो आप एनकरेज कर रहे हो. सो इट इज़ very, 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 very serious thing.
Now, this is another allegation. I'm just going to read one more because I think we understand how bad this was. But this was the other allegation where he says, one of the wrestlers, she goes on to say, he made me talk to my parents on the phone. The accused called me towards his bed. He tried to hug me forcefully without my permission. He tried to bribe me by offering to buy me supplements, which I may require as an athlete in exchange for sexual favors. And witnesses account, her mother says she corroborated the allegations pertaining to the victim, narrating the incident to her upon return from the event. She also corroborated the allegation of repeated calls made by the accused Brij Bhushan Singh after the return of the victim from Kazakhstan. Now, here is a woman wrestler, a female wrestler who's in Kazakhstan. She's gone to compete in a tournament. And this is what she's facing from the chief of the Wrestling Federation of India. Like I've been saying throughout, this is absolutely disgusting. It makes me mad. It also makes me raise that same question that I asked Nivedita and Nivriti, and I'm going to put that to Shweta as well. Where is our herd, Shweta? Where are the women when we need them? You know, I mean, look at this this Oversight committee led by Mary Com. They didn't find anything wrong. Are you seriously suggesting to me, after all this was said, that they thought that this was all normal? I mean, if that's how normal is, then we're in deep trouble as, you know, as a collective, as like I said,
Absolutely.
as one. Yeah,
absolutely, deep trouble as a collective. And not just that, I think it's also high time that we go back and we reassess where our laws stand and how much power do we give to the Vishakha committee. Some very interesting points that were brought to forth by my colleagues here, and one of course was our reluctance to approach the ICC. In this case, there was no internal complaints committee, which in itself is a violation of the law. But if there were to be one, there is a reluctance to approach the ICC because you know that some members are bound to be men and you do not want to narrate your ordeal to men. I have to give it to the wrestlers because they not just narrated it once, they went on to protest despite being dragged out of the protest area, despite being shunned by media, despite being frightened by the political power. They tried to do everything they could, and they not just narrated it once, they kept on narrating it to everybody who would try and talk to them. So these are not women who were not forthcoming when it came to allegations. These are women who were speaking at the top of their voice, but nobody was ready to hear them. That for me is more frightening, Meha. That for me is more frightening because when you turn blind eye and deaf ear towards plight of women, and not just common women, women who brought laurels to the country, women who's made countrymen proud, then what about common girls? What about common girls, who are not sent out to school, who are not sent out to workplace for the fear that they will be looked at in a certain way, for the fear that they would be harassed and molested, and the fact they will never be able to speak up. And if they speak up, they are likely to not either be believed or their names would be dragged in the mud. So all in all, a women's got to lose. And this sets a very bad precedent. The fact that there was no arrest till now, there is no anticipatory bail, there is political pressure, there is political clout, the man is being shielded. It sets a very bad precedent for all working class women, for all of us collectively, as to where is the legal recourse, right? And it gets me really worried as a woman. If though they are not heard, it's unlikely that maybe I will be heard or any other woman will be heard tomorrow. So, and on top of that, you have a government that talks about Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. How are you going to encourage parents to send out their daughters.
Yeah.
If you're not ready to prosecute the man who collectively, more than 20 athletes on record, many witnesses are saying that he harassed us on multiple levels. And for God's sake, let's just clear the charade of, oh, he's a father figure, he's a father figure. Nobody's allowed to touch you inappropriately. I have to make this clear. Nobody,
Absolutely.
even your father, is allowed to touch you, your brother, nobody is allowed to touch you inappropriately. Right? So this facade that we've created around us, so he's a father figure, and you may have misconstrued it. A woman rarely misconstrues. They know, we know, and even then we are mostly quiet because we know we're not going to be trusted, because we know what it brings with it. An allegation, then a committee, then disposed in front of a committee, then the entire chaos. So we avoid that chaos.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of women around me, including myself, who avoided that chaos by letting it go.
Absolutely.
Maybe giving people the benefit of doubt. Maybe the man did not intend it, right?
Yeah.
And when you have women so vehemently speaking about it out there for days and months, you've got to believe them. And if this government refuses to believe them, if the authorities refuse to believe them, I wonder where the legal recourse lies.
Yeah. No, very well said. I'm going to take the last allegation, and I'm going to put this question then to Geeta. The last allegation, and why you're saying this is exactly what wrestler number 6 talks about. She says, on the pretext of getting a picture clicked with me, he pulled me towards him by my shoulder to protect himself, to protect myself. I tried moving away from the accused. He says, ज़्यादा smart बन रही है क्या? आगे कोई competition नहीं खेलना है क्या तूने? And then witnesses' accounts say they've corroborated that version of the complainant to the extent that the name of the victim figured initially in the list, but later it was removed. And why this one is important for us to discuss is because of the power, what would you say, the power tussle here, or how it's the person in power who's threatening you with this. And they've given everything, these wrestlers, to be where they are. I mean, we all have gone and watched Dangal and have clapped when, Geeta and Babita Phogat won tournaments in the movie. This is real life. Vinesh Phogat went on to win 2 world championships gold, right? I mean, you're talking about top wrestlers.
Cream.
I mean, in a billion, they are the top wrestlers, Geeta. And they're being threatened with ज़्यादा स्मार्ट बन रही है क्या? अगर कोई आगे कोई competition नहीं खेलना है तूने. What happens to
it's funny,
regular girls? What happens to a little girl? Just an example. She's 9 years old and she wants to get into boxing. She wants to get into wrestling. The other thing being, most of these federations do not have an internal complaints committee. Or if they do have an internal complaints committee, they do not comply in the sense that you need to have a female member. They either don't have that, or there is somebody from outside who needs to be part, preferably a lawyer, a female lawyer, or somebody from an NGO to be part of that committee. They don't have that. What do you say to a young girl who wants to be a wrestler or a boxer in this country when something like this is going on? And the guy is still out, by the way. He's roaming around scot-free. And going by the offences that he's been charged under, the maximum punishment is 5 years.
Okay, so you brought up Dangal. Let me just say that the film industry, which faced its own share of Me Too, nothing's happened there too. So we know the state of affairs, for what's happening with people who are facing these Me Too allegations. To the young girl who's listening to this and wants to be a wrestler. As a wrestler, I wanted these people, the moment something was happening, I wish they had sort of grappled these guys physically and thrown them to the ground. And they are the best wrestlers. They should have done that. I'm so angry. Every time I hear you read out something, I'm like, they should have wrestled him and socked him somewhere where it hurt him the most. But let's not forget, these women did come out. They have fought. They have stood against the government. They have made sure that their voices were heard. And today, there has been an FIR filed It is too less, it is late, but it is like, don't give up the fight. I think we, all of us, should have been there for them. We all as women should have sort of come out and said, I don't know if he's innocent or guilty. Charge him, hold him accountable. If he's innocent, he'll be free. What are you scared of? If he's not, at least he's off the case where he can, ensure that he doesn't meddle. All of us can ensure that he doesn't meddle. And at the end of the day, let people get justice. You or the girls, let the law take its own course. So yes, these are wrestlers who did not fight these guys physically, this guy physically, when they should have. I wish they had, hit him where it hurt the most. But they came out and they fought. And look at the way they have been fighting, and they are fighting till now. So all of us are stepping out. Don't stop stepping out. Step out and fight. I think, and all of us should need to understand and, take this saying that we need to come out and say, we are there with you, and we are there with your, stand up, and we are going to stand up and be counted and, be there for you. And I think each one of us has a story. If nothing else, just recollect that or think of that and come out and support anybody who's coming out. Give them a fair hearing. That's all we ask. Let's start with a fair hearing. If the guy is innocent, he's innocent. If he's not, then he damn well go behind bars.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
absolutely. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up, but thank you so much, guys, for joining me on this discussion. And yes, I think we need to really, hats off to these wrestlers to have fought like the way they did. I mean, in that movie that Geeta and we were just talking about, Dangal, there's a line, "Mari choriyan, choro se kam thodi hai." And I think that's exactly what they've proven here. And with that, we'll wrap this up. And I know that, there's so much more that needs to be done, but we as women need to support others who are coming out, who are talking about their instances where they've either been abused, harassed, stalked, molested. Like Geeta said, give them a fair hearing, but more than that, believe in them, support them in whatever way that we can. Just as women, we owe this to another woman. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us here. That's it on this. That's it on I don't know which is my camera. If this is my camera, thank you so much for joining us here. What do you think of our programming? Do let us know in the comment section below. News 9 Live is where you get this kind of programming, where we raise these issues and we try to find solutions. I know sometimes it's not enough, an hour to just talk about it, but at least there are points that come out, there are valid points, that can be implemented, that we all can learn from. So that's it from us. News 9 Live is what you need to subscribe to for all the latest from the world of sports. And just, if you want the latest from news, any kind of news, be it entertainment, politics, press that bell icon as well if you like it, us and our programming. For now, goodbye. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
मैं इमरान अहमद खान नियाजी सबके दिल से हल्फ उठाता हूँ.
When Imran Khan came initially into politics, he thought his personal popularity would be sufficient for him. It didn't happen.
The retired military generals are openly saying that Imran Khan is a better choice.
Imran Khan may have bitten a bit too much, more than what he can chew.
Implosion. This and more. Streaming on world's first news OTT. News 9 Plus. Download now.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं.
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
होता जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं सिलेक्शन की चाह में.
ऑल इंडिया का बच्चा कोटा जाता है.
This rat race is for rats, not for humans. So why should we even be a part of it?
The Rat Race. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
Chaat, which was developed as a medicine, would become a most sought-after street food. The origin of chaat is associated with multiple stories, but the most popular theory is that in the 17th century, during the reign of Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, there was an outbreak of cholera in the city. To contain the spread, physicians and royal chefs in the kitchen looked for a remedy and came out with a dish called chaat. Oh, what a lip-smacking medicine chaat is! Always end up licking your fingers. The dish is mostly very spicy and chatpata, which translates into English as tangy. What is more fun than being out there and standing in a queue to have chaat? The process itself is so enticing. You watch your favorite savory being prepared right in front of your eyes.
What is interesting about chaat is that it is literally a movable feast. Kiosk wala, a khomche wala or a push cart wala, a ready wala carries from place to place at the doorstep of the connoisseurs of chaat and they eat.
Chaat is an umbrella term for a wide range of roadside food, which would usually have some kind of fried dough with various ingredients that typically create spicy, tangy or salty flavor. It is almost impossible to list all the chaats found in India. Every state and every city has their taste and own set of chaat food menus according to the demand of the community.